How you doing, everybody? Hello. Welcome to Monster Territory, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Really good series win. They needed this series win, in my opinion. We're now one series into the post-Raffy era, right? You got that first win, right? The first game against Seattle. That felt good. But then he had a tough one last night, right? Offense didn't show up at all. Pitching was brutal. Walker Buehler was, you could say that was his worst start of the season. You needed this one today, in my opinion, right? This was one of those series wins where you could maybe look back on and say, that was a bit of a turning point right there. You know, you had a chance this series to really show what you are without Raffy Devers. Sure, it's only one series, right? Offense, definitely a question mark in this series. They're definitely going to have to come up with more than that. But they showed you they can pitch, right? Not Walker Buehler, but you got a great performance in game one. Garrett Crochet looked fantastic today, but also gritty at the same time. Just a gritty series win. And that said a lot to me about the moxie of this team, about maybe the identity of this team. I'll talk about that in just a little bit once we get to the breakdown. I just really enjoyed this series win here today. I just feel like it said something about this team. They responded to the biggest trade and for the Red Sox since Mookie Betts. I mean, how often do you see a trade like this happen for a team? You know, trading your superstar in the month of June, right? I mean, obviously we've seen tons of trades in July, but at this magnitude, at this point of the year, you don't really see that, especially with the distraction that was that came along with it leading up to the trade, right? I felt like this was a must win here today. Not that you had to win it, but it would have just said a lot about your identity as a team moving forward. That, hey, we can still find ways to win games without our best player, without our best hitter. I really enjoyed this one today. I felt like it said a lot about this team. But I did put a poll up on Twitter. I did put a poll. If you haven't seen it, go look at it right now. But I simply asked, we have, how many votes do we have on this? We have 350 votes so far in the last 29 minutes. I said, give me your reactions, questions, and thoughts down below after the Red Sox series win over the Mariners. Do you feel a bit more confident with this series win after trading Raffy? There were three choices. Yes, no, wait and see. So as of right now, 36% say yes, 24% say no, 40% still in a wait and see mode. I think that's pretty fair. I would say right now for me, I'm cautiously optimistic because they just showed you that they can get the job done here. And, say what you will about the Mariners, maybe not playing great as of late, but this is a team that ranks pretty well offensively this year. They got some very good pitching. Obviously, they couldn't figure out Brian Wu yesterday, but they got to Logan Gilbert in game one. Luis Castillo's been pretty solid today. They were able to solve him. And they were able to just get enough offense today. And then you get Marcelo Meyer really stepping up today. Trevor Story continuing to try to keep as much going as he can to stay productive within this lineup after the terrible May that he had. And I see you in the chat, Austin, if you can just find a way to stay afloat until Bregman, Yoshida come back, and then the deadline, you can go on a run. And I agree. Like I said, you're going to have to find a way to get a couple more runs across the board, right? I mean, they showed you I think also what this showed me today too is that even without Raffy, they remember how many times they were coming up short in these close games, right? How many one-run losses they've had this year. But I think this series, they really showed you that they can win these gritty games. So we'll just have to wait and see how it goes moving forward. But I agree with you. If they can just find a way to keep it going, keep up the great pitching until you start getting some guys back, Bregman, Wilyer, Masataka Yoshida, his name is coming up a lot more now. Cora is starting to talk about him. I guess he's back from his sightseeing. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but I feel good. I said after that first win against the Mariners in this series, something feels different. There's something different in the air with this team. Still need to see a lot more here. Obviously, we got a lot of season left, and we got a lot of games left, obviously, before you really start getting into the nitty-gritty of trade season. But something does feel different. Still can't quite put my finger on it, but I'll give you an idea later on in the show. Before we do go on, I do have to get to today's sponsor. I'll be right back.
Kratz, real question for you. So I'm in Arena Club, and I opened up a slab pack. I pulled a Wyatt Langford auto rookie card. I got an immediate offer from Arena Club. I turned it down. It was in the mid 300s range. I've gotten a few offers since. Thoughts on Wyatt? Should I hold on?
I saw it. I didn't see it when you ripped the pack, but it looks so sick with everything around it and how it's spinning in your showroom. That John looked nice. But no, you shouldn't sell it. Maybe wait till he makes an all-star or two, and all of a sudden that 300 goes up, and you're going to get another instant offer right away on Arena Club.
That's right. Buy, sell, trade. Slab packs are there for you too, to rip a pack. And for me, I'm just leaving it in the showroom for now. I'm deciding what I'm going to do with it. But if I did want to sell it, then I can get myself another slab pack or buy a card that I want to buy. Get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/Val. Use code FOUL.
All righty, let's get to the player of the game. We got Trevor Story for me tonight. Let me know down in the chat who is your player of the game. Let me know who is your player of the series as well. Let me know down below in the chat. But for me today, it's Trevor Story, 1 for 4, had the home run there, 2 RBIs. Marcelo Meyer also going deep in this game. Second inning, Meyer leading it off with a home run. First pitch fastball up and in. I said yesterday with Luis Castillo, guys had a solid year this year. His best pitch has been the fastball. However, I was saying yesterday, all right, maybe got to look for some of those sinkers, some of those change-ups. Those haven't been very good pitches for him. But, when you're leaving a fastball right up and in like that to Marcelo Meyer, who's shown the ability to go deep on those pitches, hey, he didn't waste that chance. Clobbered it. Put the Red Sox on the board. Fourth inning, Marcelo Meyer coming through again, had a 6-pitch walk. Trevor Story added the home run there. That was off of a sinker. That was a sinker that just didn't quite sink enough. It was actually out of the zone. So Trevor Story, hey, good for him, man. I mean, a sinker out of the zone like that, still a tough pitch to hit. And he took it deep in the picture-friendly park of T-Mobile. I still want to say Safeco Field. You have no idea how badly I want to still call it Safeco Field. But like I said, the sinker has not been a good pitch for Luis Castillo. He's been getting hammered on that pitch this year. So, hey, good for the Red Sox today, taking one deep against his best pitch this year and taking advantage of one of his worst pitches. I will say also for the Red Sox, only 6 strikeouts on the day. Let me actually confirm that. Hold on a second. I am going to double check that. 7 strikeouts on the day. I apologize. I wrote that note a little early. I got ahead of myself. 7 strikeouts on the day. Oh, hey. Good to see, especially with how much this team strikes out. They got a lot of hard contact today against Luis Castillo. Again, not a lot of runs, but they were putting the bat on the ball. They were trying to make things happen. It's a pitcher-friendly park as well. So, I can also see, where people are saying, oh, you're going to need more offense than this. Well, it is the Mariners at their home ballpark, right? Offense is going to be hard to come by. Yes, they just went to town off Walker Buehler yesterday, but Walker Buehler, he just had nothing yesterday. It was meatball after meatball after meatball. So, yeah, even in a pitcher-friendly park, you're going to put up some runs. So I'll give the Red Sox credit, for the taking advantage of the elements, taking advantage of the environment. And, hey, 2 out of 3 games, you had some good pitching. But let's get to the pitching. Let's get to the pitching here. Garrett Crochet, phenomenal performance today. Not quite the outing that he had last time against the Yankees where he was going after a complete game shutout. But to me, maybe phenomenal is not the right word. Just a very solid performance today. A gritty performance, right? A little bit of everything from Garrett Crochet today. 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned, 8 Ks. Lots of cutters today with Garrett Crochet. And I was actually talking about this last night after Walker Buehler was getting hit around a lot. And I was wondering, I'm like, why did he get away from the fastballs? He was throwing a lot of four-seamers against the Rays in his last outing. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, I was thinking about it today. I'm like, oh, I know, I realize now. Cutters, obviously, you induce a lot of weak contact. And I actually went to the numbers. The Mariners are second overall when it comes to the highest soft contact percentage. So the Red Sox, they were trying to exploit that. That's why they're leaning so much into the cutters in the last couple of games. So with Crochet, I think we can all agree he's a much better pitcher than Walker Buehler. And he was able to make that work today. But he had his trouble early on. Very bumpy in the early going. Lots of pitches early, 58 through 3 innings. First inning, Cal Raleigh had the double on a fastball right over the plate. Can't believe in a fast. I said that yesterday. I'm like, you got to be careful with the 2 hitters today from the Mariners that have homered off of Crochet in the past, Raleigh and Arozarena. And both those guys did some damage against him today. Raleigh with the double. And then in the second inning, Jaron Duran had the drop ball. A lot of people wondering why wasn't this an error, but they said, well, because of the sun, because of the elements, he dropped the ball. So they marked it as a hit, right? I'm one of those where, listen, if you drop the ball, that should be an error, but I can also understand the sun getting in the way as well. Jaron Duran, man, he's had a few moments this year. You go back to Milwaukee, had that drop ball, ended up leading to a loss there. And then this one, again, the sun got in his eyes. Like, what can you do? But, we've seen a few times now. I believe there's been a couple at Fenway Park that have happened. Duran, he just keeps running into these little moments where, man, you got to, again, the sun, it's brutal trying to catch a ball in the freaking sun, but you got to find a way and try and clean this stuff up. But after that, Solano, he came through after that and, they were able to get a run across the board, but Crochet locked it down after that. He was able to settle in. So just got off to a bit of a tough start today. But in the end, a gritty performance for him. 8 Ks through 6 innings, only give up the 1 run. And then Greg Weissert. That was the story, I think, today with him and Chapman. Whitlock did lock it down in the 7th inning, but then Chapman came in for the 8th, and I think people were wondering, why is Chapman in this game right now in the 8th inning? Isn't this guy supposed to be coming in for the 9th to get the save? Well, I think it was because of the matchups, right? Because Cal Raleigh's been so good this year. You got to be as careful as possible with that guy. That's why I think they brought in Chapman for the 8th, just to really get by him. And then they went with Weissert in the 9th. Funny enough, with Weissert, righty-righty matchups, he's actually done better against lefties. So, that was worrying me a little bit, but Weissert's he's been able to lock this down now for the last couple of weeks. He's been pitching very well. So, he's had a couple little bumps over the last few outings, but he's been able to maneuver his way through. So that's my guess, why Chapman was in for the 8th and then Weissert was in for the 9th. They locked it down. Good, great pitching today from Crochet and the bullpen. Gotta love that. So, we do have an interesting series coming up here. Very interesting series coming up here. It almost just feels like unbelievable that this series is coming up with the San Francisco Giants. What time does this game start on Friday? I believe it's 10:15 on the East Coast. Guarantee every Red Sox fan will be watching this one. I find that so odd, and I find that so awkward that Raffy is going up against his old team this quick after being disgruntled. And another factor that goes into that as well, it's, sure, he was disgruntled with the front office, but, a part of me wonders, kind of what a lot of the teammates were thinking too. He still had good relationships with the teammates, but I think there are some in there that, kind of that they weren't really liking so much. How he responded to the whole first base thing after Casas went down. So I'm curious to see the pregame, right? I'm very curious to see the interactions there, especially being it so soon. If it was like another few weeks, to let things, calm down, then, that's different, right? But it's literally like, what, not even a week after. Very curious to see how those interactions are going to go. All right. I don't know. But I'm waiting to see, is Raffy going to be playing first base? That would be the ultimate troll move, in my opinion. That'd be crazy. But I will say one more word on this series here with the Mariners. I will say, I've been wondering, what could the identity of this team be, right? You go back to 2004. You had the idiots. 2003, Cowboy Up, right? 2013, you had the Beards. 2018, they were just going to kick the crap out of you and take your lunch money. They didn't care what you thought, right? Do damage, This team, I wonder, depending on if they continue to find success here and they continue to pitch well, they can keep this offense going. You get Bregman back, you get Willier back, Massa's back in the lineup. This might be a pretty kind of lame and boring answer, but I wonder if the identity of this team could be simply they're a team. Everyone's just doing their job. Take the old quote from Bill Belichick. Do your job. Everyone goes out there, gives it your best, and you all just work together as a cohesive unit. That's what I wonder, if that's what the identity of this team could end up being, right? And that's not a slight against Raffy. I'm going to miss Raffy. I loved seeing his bat in the lineup every day, but you keep hearing a lot from these guys. You keep hearing them saying, whatever it takes to win, whatever it takes to help the team. And then you get these young guys coming up like Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, obviously Christian Campbell starting the year, contributing. Everyone just doing their part, to work towards one goal. We just wonder if that's what this identity could be. Very simple, but just being a good, solid team. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there. Before I dive more into the Giants preview, got one more word from our sponsor.
It is summertime. We are in the thick of golf season. It's always golf season down in Florida, but we're in the thick of golf season across the country. And if someone's looking to get a new club, that logo should say it all. PXG. What do they do?
Go get fitted.
Mm-hmm.
Go get fitted by one of their master fitters, professional fitters. I've done it. It's helped shave many strokes off my handicap. It is worth it. It's educational. You learn about not only clubs, you learn about shafts, you learn about grips, you learn about angles. They have all the numbers, all the setups that you need to help improve your handicap.
You feel like a VIP when you're there.
100%. They even helped my putting, which needed help.
Mm-hmm. They help your putting there. That's how cool it is. So schedule your fitting today, and for a limited time, you could save up to 20% on your entire order. Head over to pxg.com/foul. That's pxg.com/foul to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/foul. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
All righty, let's get to it, shall we? And also, we are going to go over the Jon Heyman report in just a little bit. It's also very bright in my room. My goodness, it is very bright in here. I just looked at the screen and it's just popping all over the place. But we do have a Jon Heyman report that we will talk about in just a little bit. But let's talk about the San Francisco Giants. So, 41-32 on the year. Hold on just a second. When I'm sharing my screen, again, I still can't figure out why this is moving so slow. When I hit the button, it just takes forever. I don't know what's going on. It used to just go right to it, but now it just takes its sweet time. But the Giants, 41-32, they're 3.5 back in the West right now. They do have a wild card spot. They have dropped their last 3 games, but this has been a really solid Giants team this year. Obviously, Raffy, that's going to be the story. We all know that. But let's focus on what else is going on in this lineup, right? You got Jung-Hoo Lee, who's been very productive this year. Willie Adames, right? He's starting to come around a little bit, a very slow start in his Giants career, but you are going to get some great defense out of him. Elliot Ramos has been solid this year. Hey, don't forget Dom Smith. It's not just Raffy. It's Dom Smith as well. Man, a couple of former Red Sox here. Bottom of the order, and not, it's okay, right? You got Casey Schmidt down here. you got Mike Yastrzemski. Patrick Bailey hasn't really been doing much with the bat. Very good defensively. And then Tyler Fitzgerald. His numbers have come down since last year. But looking at the projected matchups here against the Red Sox, you're running into a couple of younger guys, Hayden Birdsong, Landon Roop, and then you're getting the veteran Robbie Ray on Sunday. So Robbie Ray, he has been pitching very well this year. 2.68 ERA. Remember, he came back last year after getting Tommy John, worked through some bumps, but he's been very good this year. And then both Hayden Birdsong, Landon Roop, they've been very solid so far. Landon Roop, you're going to get some good breaking stuff with him. Hayden Birdsong, the guy's not even 24 years old at this point, but he's going to come at you with a fastball. He's going to go, he's got a little bit of everything here. He's going to get some breaking pitches off to you. He's going to go off speed a little bit. So a guy that, he just came up not too long ago, but he's going to have some decent velo. He's just an all-around pretty solid young pitcher. 2.79 ERA, 3.67 on the FIP, decent amount of strikeouts. He's going to keep the home runs down. He's going to get, he's going to really work towards those fly balls, something to keep an eye on there. Doesn't really have a high ground ball percentage. So with Hayden Birdsong, I'm thinking you just got to see if you can wait, trying to attack some pitches, maybe up in the zone, wait for some mistakes with him. And then taking a look at Landon Roop. Landon Roop, man, got some good breaking stuff. That curveball this year, he's throwing it a lot. 39% of the time. He's going to get a lot of ground balls as well. 45% ground ball percentage this year. So you're going to get a couple of different looks with these guys. And then you're taking a look at Robbie Ray. All right, Robbie Ray, obviously this guy's been a veteran of the game. If you're watching this one, you're going to hear a lot of grunts from Robbie Ray. Every single pitch, this guy is going to grunt as loud as any other guy out there. But like I said, he's been solid this year. Good amount of strikeouts, 10 strikeouts per 9, under 4 walks per 9. That has been an issue in the past with Robbie Ray, the command. So, but he has improved that this year. And then, again, these guys have done a great job at keeping the ball in the yard. So, obviously you got that spacious park in San Francisco. Unfortunately, we're not going to have Tristan Casas, going deep on an Oppo monster shot like he had a couple of years ago. But for the Red Sox here, you just got to do what you can in another pitcher-friendly park. So we'll see what ends up happening here. But for the Red Sox, you got Hunter Dobbins, you got Brian Bayo, you got Lucas Giolito. I do like the matchup of Lucas Giolito for Sunday, a guy that gets more fly balls, so I can see him taking advantage of that spacious park, just like he did at T-Mobile against the Mariners. With Hunter Dobbins, you know what you're going to get with him. You're going to get some four-seamers. You're going to get some sliders. You're going to get some splitters. That'll be an interesting matchup. Now, with Hunter Dobbins here, let's pull up his numbers. Now, with Hunter Dobbins, he's been looking great as of late. Very good in his last couple of starts against the Yankees. Now, he's a guy that gets more ground balls. So I wonder, in more of a fly ball kind of a park, I wonder what's going to happen there. If we take a look here at the Giants, when it comes to the batted ball percentage, let's see. So the Giants right now, they're actually very low when it comes to ground ball percentage. 24th overall, under 40%. So they like to put the ball in the air. I'm thinking with Hunter Dobbins here, keep the ball down, man. Just try and keep it down as much as you can because they like to lift the ball in the air. So we'll see how that goes. And then Brian Bayo. I'd say, look at what he just did in his last start. He looked great in his last start. He was cruising along. Looked like he found a good pitch mix to work with there. I say just keep it on going, man. But, again, really try to take advantage of this spacious park. Don't be afraid of maybe going up in the zone a little bit, right? Get those fly balls. So that's what I think the Red Sox need to do here. But we all know, listen, I can sit here and talk about all the stats all we want, right? I can talk about ground ball percentage and fly ball percentage. Well, we don't really care about that. We're looking to see what is Raffy going to do here. That's going to be the big story. That's going to be very interesting. Obviously, we have no numbers to work off of with that. So, yeah, Raffy has never gone up against the Red Sox before. So, very interested to see how that goes. Alrighty. We do have one more thing to talk about. We do have John Heyman. He went on his weekly Bleacher Report stream. You know, he kind of just throws a whole bunch of stuff out there. But he did talk about the Red Sox today. I wanted to play that video for all of you. And let's get that pulled up here. So I'm going to play this. I'll be right back.
What do the Sox do now? Sox are going to be looking for a bat, I believe, as well as firming up the pitching. So I think they're still going to be active. I don't see them as a seller. I think they are a buyer. Obviously, they did sell on Devers. That was more about the culture, and I do believe that. I do believe it. Just sell Henry, please. I don't think John Henry's selling. I get it. I get it. He is certainly interested in the soccer team, and I'm not know that much about soccer to know exactly what he's doing there, but he's obviously spent on that team, and I get the speculation that he's more focused or spending more there, and they are going to need to spend. I do believe.
All righty. So talking about the Red Sox, maybe looking for a bat. You're starting to see some, rumors out there, right? Even Craig, he mentioned it the other day at first base, talking about looking for a long-term answer at first base. You keep seeing that coming up. And I know people are going to look at Abraham Toro, Romy Gonzalez, but I do wonder if the Red Sox would like to just find something firm for the rest of the year, right? Someone that you can just plug in there every day. And then Toro, Romy, they can come off of the bench. Romy giving you a right-handed bat there. Toro, he's a switch hitter, obviously, but, a guy that can play both the corners. So, I wonder if that's how the Red Sox are looking at those guys right now, right? They're there now, right? They're getting the job done now. But I wonder if they see them more for the course of the season as guys that are, going to be solid guys coming off the bench. But I wonder the Red Sox, if they're going to look for an everyday option when it comes to first base. And, there's a lot of other things to think about here as well. Wilyer Abreu's coming back. They keep talking about Masataka Yoshida. So what's going to happen there when it comes to this outfield? I don't know, man. I said this after the Raffy trade. I don't think they're done. I think there's still, especially if you're bringing back Yoshida and the way they're talking about him, they were pretending like this guy didn't even exist, right? They weren't even talking about this guy. And now all of a sudden it's like, it's a Yoshida party over here, right? Everyone's loving Masa. Everyone, if you are watching this on Nesson, I am going to wrap it up right there. You can come watch the rest of this over on YouTube. Do have to cut it right there. We're out of time. Go have yourself a good rest of your day. We'll see you for the San Francisco Giants series. So, everybody here on YouTube, let's get this wrapped up here. But I said this, I don't think they're done. There's still just a lot of players. And yes, you have been getting very good starting pitching as of late, minus Walker Buehler. I'm also going to touch on that really quick. Quick little sidestep. I'm going to say this about Walker Buehler. I didn't say this last night. It was so late. I was so tired. I still am very tired. But if he can get himself on track, and with all of these guys that are coming back here, right? Cutter Crawford is getting a little bit closer. Obviously, Richard Fitz, he's eventually going to see himself back here. I mean, Kyle Harrison, who you just traded for, so you got a lot of arms. And I know Walker Buehler, was a big signing this past offseason, but if he keeps pitching like this, if he's going to continue to be inconsistent like this. Oh, also Tanner Houck, he's on a rehab assignment. He's pitching for Worcester right now. I went blank on him. So you got a lot of arms coming back. If Buehler can't get this figured out, I don't know. I wonder if something could happen there. I'm not really sure what to think about that. I probably lean more no, because he is a veteran guy and they're obviously, spending a lot of money on the guy. And also, if he's not pitching well, what are they going to do with that contract? I mean, they would have to eat it if they moved him. Or, I don't know, would they DFA him? I don't know. So I think they would rather keep the guy. But he's got to start getting a bit more consistent here. He was looking very good before going on the IL. But ever since coming back, he's been so up and down. So they got to figure out something with him. But getting back to first base, I do think they're going to look at some long-term options. And, I got my eyes on Rhys Hoskins with the Brewers. If they decide to go into like this sort of soft sell mode that they've done before, remember they did that with Josh Hader a few years ago. They traded him while being in first place in the division because they had Devin Williams coming up. Now, with Reese Hoskins, he's going to be a free agent after this year, but I'm also looking at the fact that they did bring in Andrew Vaughn. Let's see if they can get him on track. But you got some other guys there. You got to, they got guys there. So I do wonder if Hoskins could be available. But then I'm also looking at someone like Freddie Peralta. I don't know. That might sound crazy, like a package kind of a deal. Peralta and Hoskins. I find that a little hard to believe that you'd be able to pull that off. Would the Brewers even deal away Freddie Peralta or Hoskins? Because they're a team that always wants to compete. But I keep going back to Peralta because, and again, this is just me speculating. I haven't heard anything. It's more so because, Jacob Misarowski, top pitching prospect for them. They just called him up. Brandon Woodruff's coming back soon. So I kind of just wonder if that's a similar situation to Josh Hader, because you can get a lot back for Peralta. Young major league ready talent. You can probably get someone that's closer to major league ready. Maybe get a couple of guys that are further away as well. Maybe even a major league ready guy. I don't know. Now the Brewers, they do have their outfield right now. They have Garrett Mitchell on the IL. So I would imagine, but this is a guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy. So I wonder if there could be something there with Willie Abreu. And that's where, getting back to that point, you have a lot of guys. You got Duran. You got Seti. You got Abreu. You got Roman. Masataka Yoshida coming back. So what are you going to do with all these guys? Some point, I think they're going to have to make some room here. Maybe you could use one of those guys, not Roman, but maybe a Willier. I don't think Duran. I've talked about this ad nauseum already. But could one of those guys be used to get some pitching? If not the Brewers, maybe the Pirates for someone like Mitch Keller. They just freed up some payroll. Maybe he could take back his contract. The Pirates get a bat that they really need to help them over the next few years. I think there's opportunities out there to land some starting pitching. Heyman touched on that as well. But, you got some first basemen out there. I already mentioned Reese Hoskins. If not him, maybe you can do an in-division trade for Ryan O'Hearn. He's having a very good year this year. Josh Naylor, if the D-backs decide to move him. So there's options out there for an everyday option. I keep thinking back to what Breslow said, looking for a long-term answer. So could there maybe be a first baseman out there where, he's a bit more cost-controlled? Maybe. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting deadline, especially if they can keep up the winning. Especially if they can keep improving their place in the standings. So it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. Because, you got a lot of talent here. Got a lot of players. They're going to have to do something. So, but everybody, I'm going to wrap it up right there. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very happy there's a day off tomorrow. I know that might make me sound like a terrible Red Sox fan, but not today, but the last couple of nights, doing streams at, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, awful. Sorry to be negative about that, but holy cow, way past my bedtime. I couldn't even think straight last night. I don't even know how the heck I even did a stream. I basically fell asleep like 10 minutes after I got done. So please use that day off tomorrow. Get some rest. We've all been on a roller coaster this past week. I think we all need a bit of a breather here tomorrow. So I know for a fact I'm probably going to sleep early tonight. I'm going to get caught up on my rest. But everybody, thank you for coming out today. Do appreciate that. Good series win. Could this be a step in the right direction? It may be forming the identity of this team in the post-Raffy era. Like I always say, we're just going to have to wait and see. But everybody, go have yourself a good rest of your night. Enjoy the day off tomorrow. We'll be back here for some Red Sox versus Raffy on Friday night. I'll talk to you next time.